Hello and welcome to another episode of Coach's Commentary. I was talking about the reasons why GT and CSK reached the final of the IPL. One of the main reasons has been their ability to play spin and also to try and ensure that the middle phase of the innings was well organized. That is largely due to the skill sets of the middle order batters in their ranks, and that's the reason probably they did not find any problems at all, even if they were to be faced with a little bit of a problem during some of the games. But if you look at it, on the other hand, you got other sides which really did not measure up to what it takes to be consistent, especially in the middle overs. And that's been maybe one of the reasons why the other sides did not reach the knockout phase, even though their openers did extraordinarily well. Talking about which, RCB is one side that will come to mind straight away because they had a lot of batting at the top of the order, explosive batters and experienced batters and great performers. Virat Kohli, Faf du Plessis, and of course Glenn Maxwell also being very consistent at number three. But their problems have been largely because nothing of note was done during the middle phase and towards the end of the innings. Of course, Dinesh Karthik did not have a season like he did in the last edition. That is perhaps something that did not really go along with the plans that RCB would have had at the start of the season. They did give a lot of encouragement to Lomrod. He came good in one innings against Delhi, but apart from that, nothing much really happened. Of course, Shabazz did not contribute with the bat either. He did a good deal of batting for them in the earlier IPLs, but this particular season he has had a very quiet season. So middle order batting is something that did not probably fire as much as the RCB would have liked to. Bracewell and Rawat did well in a couple of games or so, but apart from that, after Maxwell at number three, I think it was a case of the RCB middle order not really cashing in on the great starts provided by Virat and Faf du Plessis. RR is at another great bunch of middle order batters. The lineup that they had in the middle order is fantastic. Sanju Samson, Hetmeyer, Puran, Jurel, Padikkal. And you would expect that this kind of batting lineup would obviously really blaze down all the opposition attacks, but that is not to be. One of the main reasons for that is that Butler did not fire as much as he did by his standards and the standards that he set in the last year's IPL edition. He's had a very quiet IPL, and even though his strike rate looks really healthy by his own standards, he did not really sort of measure up to the expectations that the RR camp would have had. Of course, Puran and Hetmeyer played a winning hand in a few games, but collectively it was a case of them firing now and then, blowing hot and cold, and that's one of the reasons that RR did not perhaps do as well as everybody expected them to. That is a problem that they need to address in the next edition. Another lineup which had a great batting in the middle order was Mumbai Indians. Of course, when you talk about the Mumbai Indians batting lineup and that to middle order, you'll straight away be reminded of Surya Kumar Yadav. Then Cameron Green came really good. And then we have the next big gun in the lineup, Tilak Verma, and of course, Vadera and David to complement these big guns in the middle order. But quite obviously, the middle order fared well for the Mumbai Indians. Their problems lay elsewhere. It was perhaps a case of the fast bowlers really leaking a lot of runs and the fast bowlers not really bringing in the variations that are required to try and put the skids on the batters and pick up wickets as well. But nevertheless, their entry into the top four is something that they look back with a lot of pride because at one stage that didn't look likely. And moreover, with Rohit Sharma not really in the best of form, they would have perhaps been a little bit unsure as to whether they'll make it to the top four, but they did, and eventually had to go out much earlier than they would have perhaps expected having got there. We've seen Mumbai Indians get into the top four all the time, or most of the times, not being really sure at the halfway mark, but I'm sure that the Mumbai Indians will come back stronger because now they know what it is that they need to set right, and they are very good in getting all these things fixed with each and every passing season, and they do a very good job of it as well. If you look at the DC, there's a lot of uncertainty from the way that they went about things. Nobody was perhaps given a long rope or a good run of chances. There were constant changes in chopping. This perhaps did not help the confidence of some of the Indian players like Sarfraz Khan, Manish Pandey, and Aman Khan. So this perhaps did not really helped their cause as well. And also David Warner at the top of the order along with Salt did extraordinarily well for them. David Warner was for some reason not able to really turn it on where it mattered in terms of pacing the innings and enhance the run rate as and when the Delhi Capitals required. But I'm sure that that's too good a side not to have figured in the top four. I'm sure that there's a lot of work is left to be done for them. The other side that perhaps did not really perform as well as expected was the SRH lineup. It had a power packed lineup, but unfortunately, I for one felt that the role allocation was something that was a problem because they had the likes of Klassen, Markram, Anmol Preet, Washington Sundar, Tripathi, Harry Brook. Now, what more can you ask for when you're fixing up a team and when you think you're lining up the middle order for a competition like IPL? I think that was one hell of a lineup, but somehow there was a case of the batters being sent up and down the order. The prime example was Abhishek Sharma was tried in the middle order a few games, and then Harry Brook again was shunted up and down the order. Klassen did extraordinarily well, but by the time the batters as a unit hit the straps, it was a case of too late for them. I'm sure that the next season around they will do a lot better, and that's always the case when a very highly talented side does not do as well as they're expected to do in a particular season. They reflect and they obviously learn from their lessons and come back to do extraordinarily well the following season. We're talking about KKR, that is another side which had a lot of good middle order batters. Nitish Rana has done a good job. Rinku Singh is really been one of the major stars of this edition of IPL. And then, of course, Andre Russell, 140 strike rate does not seem much for the simple reason he's capable and he's shown us that he can really go ballistic and get even a strike rate of 170 when he's really in form. But once again, by his own standards, he's been a bit below the boil in this particular edition of IPL. I'm saying this even though he's got a strike rate of 140, it goes to show the kind of reputation that he set for himself. Russ, Andre Russell somehow did not fire on a consistent basis for KKR. And the other side, which will obviously rue the fact that they could not make use of some good victories, was the Kings 11, Punjab. The top order was firing. Shikhar Dhawan was getting runs, and then there's an injury to him. The middle order was always a problem for them, even though they had the big hitting Livingston and the most uh, adaptable batters you can see in world cricket today, Sikandar Raza. Even though they got runs at a healthy pace, it was a case of somehow, once again, the middle order not really banking or mm, enhancing the work done by the middle order, rather the top order batters. It's a good pitch at Mohali, and also it is a good pitch at Dharamshala. but unfortunately, things did not work out for them. Jitesh and Shah Rukh Khan were held back for too long, I felt, in some of the games. And if these two youngsters were to be sent up the order, were given more time out in the middle, perhaps things could have been different. But then again, every side has a specific a reason and a specific plan laid out for each and every player. And obviously, Shah Rukh Khan and Jitesh Sharma are supposed to look after the last 3, 4 overs in the innings when they batted. But it's very difficult for a couple of batters to fire on all cylinders in the last 3, 4 overs and be successful. So it is a case of the middle order not really firing as a unit, and that's the problem. Some of the sides in this IPL had, even though you had cases like KKR having a good middle order doing reasonably well, and then the middle order of MI doing extraordinarily well. Those sides were perhaps not backed up enough by the bowling department. Yes, in the case of KKR, Varun Chakravarti made a good comeback of sorts in this season. He's picked up wickets, he's looked good. Sunil Naran, as usual, his efficacy levels do not diminish drastically, and that's the impression that you get having seen him over a long period of time. It is perhaps a case of the fast bowlers once again going for a lot of runs, and also they did not perhaps have the wickets that they would have liked to have put out for all their home games. That's all water under the bridge. The season is over. It's time for everybody to take some time off, reflect, and obviously think as to how they got to do the course correction for the following season. But that is not for two sides because they still have something to achieve here, GT and CSK. Now, I spoke about the reason why the other sides did not do as well as they could because of a few problems um, in the middle order. But that's also due to the fact that they do not have the advantage of the middle order batters of GT and CSK because both the sides have good spinners in their ranks and their batters get to play against them. If you look at perhaps a net session of Gujarat Titans, they get to play Noor, they get to play Rashid Khan. And then if you're talking about the net sessions of Chennai Super Kings, you always have Tikshana, the mystery bowler, and then of course you have Santner, Moeen Ali, and of course Jadeja. So it is a case of them gaining confidence by playing these bowlers in the nets and also getting a fair idea of how to go about getting runs against the spinners. I'm not degrading or debasing the spinners in the other sides at all. It is just a case of these batters having the luxury of playing such high quality bowlers in a net session day in and day out. And that's perhaps is also one of the reasons why they were able to do well when it mattered. Where does it matter? In all these matches and also in the key moments. So this is how this IPL is panned out. So the message is obviously very clear for all these sides. The opening batters can do extraordinarily well, but it has also got to be backed up or enhanced by the middle order. And for middle order batters to do extraordinarily well, it also requires dexterous skill sets too, because some batters are good against the medium paces, some are good against the spinners. But what is required for middle order batters to do well is the ability and the skill sets to do extraordinarily well against the faster bowlers and also the spinners. And let's not forget the fact that they also need the skill sets to really adapt quickly and do well on pitches which do not have too much of bounce or which are not really that pacey. So that's another thing that they need to adapt to as well. It's not an easy job because if you're watching the opening batters and then walking out and then you have to really throw your bat around, get runs at a quick pace, regardless of how tough the conditions are and how extraordinary the bowlers in the opposition ranks can be, it has to be done. So it's a very tough job. One can understand, one can empathize with them, one can sympathize with them. But when you're talking about perhaps one of the reasons that did not really sort of help the cause of the teams in this particular IPL. It is obviously the middle overs being the problem area for most of the sides. That's it from me in this episode. And until I catch up with you next time, be good and stay safe.